Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another installment of The Fool's Interpretation of the Havamal. I am your host, Robert the Fool, and this is the Pacific Northwest. In this episode, we will be reading stanzas 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, and I think we'll cut it off there. But without any further ado, let's get into this. This is the love of a deceitful woman. It is like driving an unshod horse, a playful, young, poorly tamed fowl across slippery ice, or like sailing a ship in a wild wind, or limping after a reindeer after the mountains thaw. Now, based on the last couple of episodes and what we've been talking about, like not trusting things being untrustworthy, and a couple of stanzas have been about women, and like not trusting things that they say or whatever. I feel like this stanza is pretty straightforward, but like always, I say, take the boat, take the horse, and compare it to your car. You know, we're not training horses trying to make them to be easily ridden or like pull a plow. So I take the parts where it's talking about a boat or a horse, and I compare it to my car. It's like a car that hasn't been maintained, and you're driving it, and at any moment a tire could blow out because the tread is so bare. Some just any old random part of the engine could blow because oil hasn't been changed forever. It's got original gaskets from when it came off the assembly line, and since it hasn't been serviced forever, you're driving it feeling like a nervous wreck because it's potentially not going to get you to your destination, whether that be work or home or whatever it is. But your destination in marriage is retirement together and enjoying your grandchildren and great grandchildren. And so if the woman you do this with is deceitful, it's your marriage with her will be like driving a vehicle every day that you don't maintain. It's simply going to break. 91. I'll speak plainly now, since I know both men and women. Men lie to women. We speak most eloquently when we tell the biggest lies, and seduce even wise women with lies. Now, when some dude hears this, he's gonna be like, what the fuck? I don't just lie to women when I talk to them. I'll tell you, bro, what is poetry? Are you really going to grasp the stars out of the sky and put them in the center of daisies to give to her in a bouquet that you gather? No, that's a fucking lie. Sure sounds nice though. I just pulled that out of my ass right now. Who doesn't want a bouquet of daisies with stars in the center of them? Sounds pretty fucking dope to me. These are the kinds of things I would say to women. When I first met my wife, like back in 2008, I had just recently lost my job. So I had to, and then the person that I was living with, I was, I moved into, like, his father had passed away. So he was he was living at home with his mom, and like he had a younger sister and everything. And then I was paying rent to live with them, and then I lost my job because the factory that we worked at shut down, got liquidated. So then I had to move back home. And so I was jobless and living at home when I first met my girlfriend. And one of the things I was doing, like, the only money I was making when I met her was the money I was making from the National Guard, and that was like $180 a month. So I was like, yeah, I was broke as shit, and I didn't have a car either. So I was a straight up loser. Somehow I swindled this woman to believe that I was the best man around. And it was all with poetry and talking her up, telling her lies. Sweet, sweet nothings. 92. A man should speak eloquently and offer gifts to a woman whose love he wants. Praise the body of a beautiful woman. It's the enamored man who will win her. See, if you're not enamored by the woman that you're trying to get, you won't be you won't be doing this. You won't win her. There's like you're definitely in a contest with every other guy around, and you are trying to compete with them. And I remember I remember when I was in that stage of competing against other men. Like, flashy dudes seemed really hard to compete with. I'm not a flashy guy at all, but there's some dude with and they were like always guys that like wanted to go to the club. It's basically they dressed like they were ready to go to the club all the time, and then like their car was like they made sure they drove a car that looked like it belonged in the parking lot of a club. And uh and that kind of like that's a kind of flashy. I mean, that's not even, I don't know. It's definitely not stanza 92. Like all it is it's flash with no substance. It's like, and then like, because they don't even have to say anything. See, like in 91 when it's talking about like how men lie to women, uh like the guy that tries to dress flashy and have like a stupid nice car and whatnot, it that takes place for his inability to speak. Because then is like you go back to these guys' house, like I'd meet guys like this, and then after you're wherever you're going, whether it be the club or the bar or whatever, and you go back to this other person's house with other people and to you have an after party. They just live in a shitty apartment. They're not rich, but they make themselves appear rich to influence to um they make themselves appear rich to the young women that they're trying to go after by having nice clothes, or and then having a nice looking car, and appearing as though at all times they're ready to go to the club. Whereas like I've been talking through all these videos, I'm the kind of guy that has always been semi broke, and like I wear like I wear like my work clothes on a daily basis because I ain't got the money to buy another kind of clothes. Like pretty much my entire wardrobe is work clothes, and then my casual clothes are basically work clothes, except it'll have like the Batman symbol on the t-shirt instead of just like a black t-shirt with a pocket on it like I wear at work. And then I go home, and then after I shower and slip on my regular clothes, it's just a black t-shirt with, the good old yellow Batman symbol. And because of that, I feel like it was hard to compete against men that were visually lying. Because I had to, because you got to get the woman's attention so you can verbally lie to her and tell her sweet nothings and write her poetry and, and shit like that. And so if you're not enamored by the woman that you're trying to get, like it's saying in 92, then you're not going to win that woman. And believe me, even if you are that flashy club dude, when you take this chick back to your shitty apartment and you you guys do your thing or whatever, isn't it how many times does it not turn into a relationship? Because the way you're going about it is by being visually flashy, visually lying. It'll be much more successful if you verbally lie by writing poetry to the woman you're trying to get, and you give her gifts. Like, we weren't even together for that long. We were only together for like a month and a half before it was my wife's birthday when we first started dating. And what did I get her? I got her a set of blue sapphire earrings. Blew her ass out of the water because we were young and nobody had ever bought her jewelry before. And so I knew that if I bought her it was a necklace too. And it's her birthstone. So she liked that I spent time figuring out what, this motherfucker's into like astrology and shit like that. Oh yes, I know I'm an Aquarius. And women love that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say spiritual because it's just like astrology and like your blood type and what kind of a person are you? Are you a left-minded person, right-minded person? Like chicks are into that stuff. And so if you spend the time figuring out what kind, what they are, and then you get them a gift that has to do with that, like the sapphire earrings and necklace, then that shit fucking flips their feet right off the ground. They don't know what to do about it. But you need to be, if you're not enamored with the woman, then you ain't going to do it. You're just going to be wasting your time hooking up. 93. No man should mock another for falling in love. A woman's beauty often strikes harder on a wise man than a fool. This is completely true. And I think the reason it'll hit a wise dude, just like a smart dude, somebody like, I take this as talking about somebody who's like successful in life, I think it's going to hit them a little bit harder because they realize, like, to get a woman, you got to be successful. To keep a woman, you got to maintain that success, and also, with all of that comes the stuff we were just talking about, like getting them gifts and writing poetry and proving and winning them in the competition against other men. And I feel like because I mean, like, how many times, like in high school or college or somebody that you work with or whatever, is some dumb fuck that is like with this chick that is just like way out of his league for some reason, and it always ends. Like it's not some everlasting relationship that they have, but you're wondering, why is this chick dating this guy. Like, uh, he doesn't. Oh, I mean, and then it ends because he's not enamored with her. Like like it was talking about in the previous stanza. He doesn't win her forever because he's a stupid fool, and because he's not enamored, then he's not going to be doing the things throughout his life that'll make sure that he keeps that woman or whatever. He like maintains like cultivates that relationship like into a marriage and a family and all that stuff. Like, you're not just, you don't have to just continuously get gifts and write poetry and do all the, like, that shit's in the beginning, and then you cultivate that into a marriage and a family, and then you're doing other things, like you're like just got done uh, helping, like, we built a greenhouse for, like, my wife and I. It's her, she wanted a greenhouse, and so we bought one, and then I helped her build it, and she couldn't have built it without my help. And so, like, that's the kind of, that is, instead of buying gifts of, like, I mean, you'll still buy jewelry and stuff, like, as the decades go on, but the way you show how you're enamored changes over time. 94. No man should mock another for falling in love. Love is strong enough to make a fool out of a man who was once wise. I feel like that's just a continuation of what we're talking about. Like, you see people get lovesick. Well, maybe lovesick is like after the relationship's over or something. Because there's like, yeah, love drunk. You're love drunk, and this motherfucker's like missing work because he's like trying to get in touch with this chick that he's dating. And you're like, bro, like, sorry, but you're my roommate. And like, we got bills to pay, and you're not cleaning up your part of the apartment. And anytime your girlfriend does come over, it's a fucking tornado of a fight in a shit show. And so, uh, it's the problems in their relationship are bleeding into your friendship with your roommate, and because of how love drunk he is, and he's just making a foolish decision one after another because he's love drunk with a woman, and it's making him it's making him a fool, whereas he once was wise. 95. Only you know what dwells in your heart when you are alone, but nothing is worse for a wise person than to have nothing to love. I feel like that is uh it it reminds me of that scene in Final Fantasy in the movie Final Fantasy 7 Advent Children, when at the towards the very end, when Sephiroth and Cloud are fighting, and Sephiroth says, "Tell me what you cherish the most so I can take it from you," or whatever. And then Cloud goes, "I pity you." He's like, "There isn't a thing that I don't cherish." And Cloud used to not care about anything. Back in the game, before the movie, there's the game Final Fantasy VII, and in the beginning of the game, Cloud starts off. You don't really need to know the game for this, but basically it's a story about a dude who's a mercenary, and all he cares about is the job and making money and moving on to the next job. And as you play the game, obviously you meet characters that join your team. He runs into people from from the past in his life. They become part of the team. He learns learns that caring for people isn't a weakness, it's a strength, so a wise person knows that the only reason we really do things is because we love other people. And I'm just using Cloud from FF7 as an example because he starts off as a character in his character arc. He starts off as somebody who doesn't care about anything, and tells people that straight up to their face. And he doesn't care so much that he doesn't even really care if he dies. He's almost in a state of nihilism in the beginning of the game, and he has to slowly that slowly changes as he watches people he either meets for the first time as the story progresses, or people from his past uh, either get hurt or express some hurt to him that he was involved in from the past. And only a wise person knows why it's important to care about other people. I mean, it takes you can't just be a hermit living in the woods by yourself. Like, you know, Jeremiah Johnson would have preferred to still have his wife and his kid. He did not want to be a lonely mountain man by himself. He definitely wanted to have a family. He only becomes a lonely hermit the rest of his life after his family gets killed. And then he gets his revenge. And, he's not going to kill himself because he is a Christian. I wouldn't kill myself either. It's, it's not like in our scripture or whatever. Nothing says you can't kill yourself, but I definitely wouldn't. And so, a fool like these bums around where I live and work, in the surrounding city and stuff, these drug addict bums, they're fools. It doesn't matter. They have nothing to love and they don't care. And it doesn't matter because all they're doing is they're only focused on what they want in this moment right now. And I'm going to go get it. And it doesn't matter who I have to screw over to get what I'm after. And so they don't care about not having anything to love because they're a stupid fool. But like, and the more I talk, it makes me think about a couple of guys that I work with who are around my age, and like one of them is my supervisor, because I have a couple supervisors. But he'll be asking us if we're going to be doing overtime sometimes, he'll be like, hey, overtime's available this weekend if you want. And then, but I can't, I got stuff here at the farm. And then like now I'm coaching my daughter's volleyball team. And so I'm just like, I don't got the time. Sorry, bro. And then he's always really interested in what I'm doing with my family that weekend. And then he's always doing overtime because he doesn't have a family. And I can tell that it really bothers him. He's a smart guy. He's what this stanza would consider a wise man that doesn't have anything to love. And then I can tell he would definitely love to have a family. And I mean, if the way he is at work is any inclination to how he is in his regular life, I bet he'd be a great dad. And there's a bunch of guys out there like that are this wise person. And remember, when it says wise, it's not talking about some old sage wise. It just means a person that knows what they're supposed to be doing and is succeeding in life. Somebody that is an upstanding member of society. There's tons of men like that right now that are in their late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, like me, that don't have nothing to love. And you guys need to change that. 96, I said I was going to read 96, but 96 has to do with 97 and goes into the next page. And I think I'll just save that for next time because it starts going into like a whole couple stories where he's talking about love affairs and whatnot, and I'm getting tired and I gotta go to bed because I got work in the morning. But I hope you all have a good night, and I will talk to you later. Peace out.